Good day, everyone, and welcome to either the live, well, it depends how you're watching, the live BSC News Friday night, the YouTube version, or either the BSC News podcast. We've got a very exciting episode here tonight, which is basically talking you through how to start an NFT project from start to finish. You might remember a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago, we had a good podcast with ApeLabs, and luckily, probably the best people to help us with this podcast, they are back again, and one and only Chip is here, along with fellow ape, Greg Ape Mundo. So Chip and Greg Ape, thank you first of all so much for being here tonight. Would you be able to introduce yourselves first of all?
Yeah, thanks so much for the invite, Tom. Always a pleasure to pop back in and talk about these things. And so I am Chip, president and lead instructor for ApeLabs. And then I will pass it over to Greg so he can introduce himself.
Yeah, it's so nice to be here. It's like being home, being here in BSC News. So, well, I'm Greg. I'm the ombudsman of ApeLabs, and also I'm started teaching ApeLabs in Espanol. So, well, ApeLabs is going to be helping all our beautiful people from Latin America and Spain. So, well, we are preparing that for them.
Very nice, good. And would you be able to tell us a little bit about what exactly Ape Labs is? Probably, well, I assume a lot of people probably have listened to the podcast previously, but for people that haven't listened to the podcast and they're a bit, well, they're not familiar perhaps with the Ape Labs platform, can you tell us, what Ape Labs is before we get going?
Sure. Yeah, would love to. So ApeLabs is a live in-person classroom for students to learn about crypto and DeFi. Our main offering is a 8-week certification course where it involves over 100 hours of lecture and group work and 7 to 8 potential guest speakers from other established projects that come in. And so that's our main offering, and we've had really good success with that so far. We've certified 24 graduates from that program, and they work on 17 different projects in the space. So incredibly successful in that regard. And then one of our ancillary offerings are Flex Labs. And so these are much more shorter duration, more refined focus. And so we've offered Flex Labs where Chainlink has had a developer advocate come in and teach about oracles. We've offered Flex Labs a 3-day Flex Lab on how to create your own NFT collection. And then coming up this summer, we have a really exciting slate of Flex Labs in store, along with the Espanol offerings that Greg alluded to. So at our core, we offer formal crypto education. It's a real school with qualified instructors, a tangible experience in the space, at the forefront of our technology. When you look at the different types of people that we bring in to speak, and so it's a very unique offering that we have, and it's it's for people who are very committed, right? Um, we're not a get rich quick type organization. Like we're not gonna come in and show you how to start a pump group or anything like that. We're teaching fundamentals of financial management and principles from traditional finance that can be brought into our space so people can navigate crypto, DeFi, make sound decisions, understand principles like risk and operational security, because this is where the largest losses happen in the space, or through these types of concepts. So yeah, we love it. We love what we do, and it's really exciting to do something like this because you see the desire to provide education. Well, it's really hard to show up Monday through Friday every single day and teach a classroom full of willing students, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a huge drive to do these like learn and earn campaigns and YouTube videos and blah 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 blah. But like we're like actually a classroom, and it's very unique.
Amazing, thank you. Yeah, and to people that want to know more about ApeLabs, they are a very, very interesting platform, very worthwhile, bring a lot of, they're a huge benefit to the NFT space. Do listen to the podcast, which I'll link below in the description. And you mentioned as well that you've got a number of successful projects that have launched sort of from your ApeLabs scheme. Would you be able to tell us a little bit about them and what the projects are?
Sure, Greg, do you want to Do you want to talk about some of them?
Well, it's difficult to start with some projects because we can make two groups here. You'll find our students projects, and that is totally crazy that they are having so much success, that they are doing their own stuff. And that's one thing that you have to mention, or it's very important to mention about ApeLabs, that is the perfect platform for you to start like dreaming in your own terms, like starting your own dream in this amazing space that is crypto or NFT products. And the other side is what we call the projects that are created from ApeLabs. So, well, when I was a student, Chip and the rest of the faculty have this idea of creating a project just for the student that is called Mashes, that is live in the Algo chain. So we started there, and my first experience in like working really in this space was in Mashes. So was amazing, was totally challenging, was also a very hard thing for me to do because I'm not a native speaker, so was amazing in that sense. And well, they are working extremely well. Machines are keep on working, keep on selling, and all the stuff. And later on, we decided to go a little bit further and start to exploring the BSC chain. And well, we decided to launch lab rats. Lab rats are the perfect creation just for the people who are searching for the best quality in an artistic way and an excellent way to enter ApeLabs, because right now with one lab rat you can access to every single program of education that ApeLabs offers. So
Yeah.
it's the key point to enter.
In sorry to interrupt, Greg, but
No, please.
to kind of tie it back into some of the student projects that have come out. Recently Baked Potatoes B&B minted through, and so there were two or three gentlemen from that team in our earlier NFT 500 Flex Lab, and then we also have some of their team members in our current certification cohort. Smart Chain Maritime Society is going to be debuting, and they're currently enrolled. And so that's kind of the outlook from this cohort, but in terms of like starting their own projects. But then within this certification cohort, we have people that worked on Limpo, Liquid Collectibles. Um, uh, Try to think of some others off the top of my head. I don't want to disenfranchise any of the current students, but yeah, I mean, we have people on Moonbird, and so we have a really good selection of students who have decided to create their own projects, and also a good collection of students who have decided to work on established projects in the industry. And so it creates some really incredible dynamics and opportunities because we're growing this really large network across multiple chains. And the foundation of this network is education and growth in supporting each other, right? And anybody who comes into this experience, it's very palatable for them. And so, yeah, we love it. And we're really excited to see, what comes after certification for this season, and what some of the grads might produce.
Fantastic, brilliant. Well, yeah, you definitely have got a wealth of solid projects where people working on them have been through the ApeLabs certification. So it's and that's only going to get bigger as well. And I never knew about the baked potato thing as well. So that's another arrow to your quiver. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
correct saying. Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Hmm.
minted on 420 for Baked Potato Day, and I was so
Nice.
pleased with my little tater. He was so high. But yeah, he was adorable, and he was just living his own life. So
Good. No, that's good to hear. So, making like an NFT collection from the very, very start. So, for example, if I had an idea, I mean, ideally, what I'd like is for people to watch this live stream, podcast, or YouTube video that want to start their own NFT collection, but there's so many steps along the way. So, if we start right at the very beginning, so for example, if I had an idea like I perhaps wanted to make this is just a random example. You know, Game Boy NFTs, obviously not actual Game Boy because copyright issues, but you know,
Sure.
game console looking NFTs that in the future was part of some sort of GameFi project. What would my
Yeah.
very, very, very first steps be?
Well, run away from Ether if you want to do a GameFi project.
Yeah. Is that just because of the gas fees?
Yeah. Just go ahead and
Mm.
scratch that one off. Well, yeah, I think for anybody who wants to deploy an NFT collection, they have to take first a very serious and very real and pragmatic approach to it. Um, it's really easy to mint an NFT series. It's really easy to spin up a collection. It's really hard to sell them, right?
Mm.
And so, in any sort of enterprise or endeavor that you undertake, you usually have to put in effort into it. And so, if you're going to deploy a Game Boy or game console type NFT series, you have to really start first at the protocol level and understand like kind of how the protocol is set up, whether it can scale for potential large scale GameFi transactions, whether your users would be able to continue playing in periods of high activity. So you'd want to look first to see if the throughput is there at the protocol level. And then you'd want to make sure that the protocol can retain the core value propositions of NFTs. Because if you look at Solana and where we talk about immutability being a core value proposition of NFT, well, it shuts down. It's every other week or something. And that just nukes the core value proposition of NFTs because when the network gets restarted, who's in charge of it? How do you know that your assets will be included? And so the idea that this network is sustainable for NFTs, it's ridiculous. It's ludicrous. It absolutely nuked all of its value. And so
That's interesting. Yeah.
yeah, so you really have to take a really smart approach and say, okay, well, I'm going to do a game console. So first and foremost, I have to find my protocol. And you need users, you need throughput. And then from that point, once you understand the protocol you're in, you have to look at that ecosystem because the standard fare 10K mint on Ethereum, it's not going to work on Near or it's not going to work on Wax because there isn't a user base to support that. And so step two would be to start researching the ecosystem, understanding, kind of what their tastes are, what the supply sizes are, what art or what sort of features within collections tend to gain traction or have popularity. And it would be like undertaking any sort of other regular business in Denver, where if you were going to open up a brick and mortar shoe store, right, you would look at the area, you would look at the traffic, you would look for potential competitors, right? You wouldn't just walk into a small town and open up 100,000 square foot showroom for shoes. You go under, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we have to deploy the same approach to like minting and releasing an NFT collection because the concept in making these decisions, these are the easiest parts, right? But it's really easy to mess that part up because once you get into doing the art and creating the layers and deploying contracts, this is where it can get really hard and really tricky. And
Mm.
so you have to nail down the concept and the construct and have it like in place and be very confident in it.
Okay. Yeah. Sort of like the foundation layers, but if they're rubbish and a bit crumbly, then everything's gone to poo, basically.
Yeah.
And choosing the network as well. There's a lot of networks that you can mint NFTs on. Obviously, you mentioned Ethereum and Solana, and it's funny that you mentioned Solana as well. And yeah, how often it can shut down. Last week, I think it was last week, I was trying to mint, and the transaction speed went down to 16 transactions per second. It was a bit hurtful, but so when choosing a network, I mean, how should people do that? Do certain networks attract sort of different people, different genres, if that's the correct term to use, for NFTs? I see a lot of gaming projects on Polygon, and I don't know. They're just there's a lot of choice out there. I mean, how should a person choose what network to mint on?
That's a fantastic question because it's really hard. And when you talk about like the users on Polygon, Yeah, there's a lot of that on Polygon because of the incredibly low transaction fees and the appeal that it has for people who are using play to earn for like actual income,
Yeah.
right? And so this market on Polygon and the users that on Polygon, they are so much different than people on Solana or people on Algorand or people on AVAX for that matter. And so each ecosystem has its own pros and cons, and because of that, it attracts its own type of user. And so if you were going to do this GameFi game NFT project, Polygon might be incredibly attractive, right? Because there's already people in that ecosystem who are looking for these and who are using these services. If you were to go to kind of like a less developed type ecosystem, right, you might have a much harder time gaining traction if there isn't already an appetite. Because if you have to introduce the topic of GameFi and gaming NFTs
Mm.
and integration to the whole ecosystem, well, now you just like your workload increased dramatically.
Yeah. No, it is interesting. And I think, yeah, that's one of the. Well, I don't know. I'd be tempted just to do it on BSC. Obviously, the transaction fees
Yeah.
there aren't as cheap as Matic. But yeah, to an extent, it's what I know. And then
Right.
what type of people or what type of NFTs are released on Ethereum? I mean, in my mind, it's proper hardcore NFT collectors. The
Yeah.
sort of I'm not saying this person's name necessarily because I support or like him,
Yeah.
but like the Jake Paul type investors of, okay, let's get this NFT to 85 ETH. Whack
Yeah.
our gas fee limit up to 1.6 grand and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
type of well, yeah,
I mean,
people that just
I my most of my experience with the Ethereum ecosystem ended when I kind of migrated to BSC early last year in late 2020, kind of with the herd, I guess.
mm,
I could speculate that people who are doing NFTs on Ethereum are masochistic because there will never be anyone around that could tell me it's worth spending 4 or 5 grand in transaction fees. Like, this
yeah.
is not what this space was designed for. You guys are nuts. You're full of crap. Don't ever try to justify this stuff. You price out 99.9% of the world. And I'm so tired of hearing this bull. Like, this isn't good. Don't try to draw people into this ecosystem because they're just going to get wrecked on transaction fees alone. And
Mm,
if it's about flipping NFTs and making a quick profit, well, dude, like, I'm not here to for speculation. I'm not here to facilitate reckless gambling. I'm not here to facilitate degenerate activity. Go to a casino, right? Um,
mm,
so yeah, no, it's the in terms of what's popular on Ethereum in the consolidation, right? You're talking about billions of dollars of NFTs being traded, and now they're all owned by Yuga Labs. And then all of the trading activity on Ethereum is happening on OpenSea. And so there's these high degrees of centralization. That ecosystem is going to get pigeonholed into off-chain solutions to avoid gas. It's just a disaster waiting to happen.
yeah. No,
Sorry.
that's good. No, that's very good to
Yeah.
hear. Very, very.
Yeah.
I do agree as well. I mean, you have a lot more knowledge in this than me, but that's the yeah. I do question, why are people still using Ethereum and you talked about OpenSea and so marketplaces. Um, if you wanted to maybe if there's a specific marketplace you wanted to launch on, um, would you prioritize a marketplace over a blockchain? Or would you decide a blockchain and then a marketplace, or then how you would launch?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely. Sorry, Greg. I feel like I'm talking way too much. uh,
No,
I-
please.
yeah, no, you definitely want to start at the protocol level because if you're hinging your entire this, if you're building your entire collection around a marketplace, like, you're destined to fail. Because what happens if that marketplace is full of immature, short-sighted people who want to nuke the relationship?
Yeah.
So now you deployed a permanent, immutable NFT collection around a marketplace that doesn't even want you, right? And so the protocol can't say no. If you deploy the contract to the protocol, it accepts it without question, right? And so definitely build it around that. And Greg, I'd welcome any comments you have there.
Well, for our experience, Well, first we need to explore in what change we want to, on which protocol we decide to deploy our NFT collection. And talking about marketplaces, well, it's such a hard experience to find the right marketplace for your NFTs, and because some of them has special conditions for you to mint. Some of them are totally open for you, but you have probably a smaller audience, so you have to take care of all that situation and analyze all that situation with your team. So I think you need a strong foundation about which protocol you choose, and also you need a strong team to support you with that idea, because along the road there started to appear in your NFT projects a lot of difficulties, and when you have a strong team, you are able to face that situations, to have a hard negotiation with a marketplace, or try to do a partnership with some another NFT project. So for me, the three legs of the table is like selecting the good protocol, choosing your team members would well, and of course selecting the marketplace that will be the best for you.
Yeah, and we had a great experience with Mushies on this note because Rand Gallery was one of the more popular marketplaces on Algorand. And we launched from a different marketplace. We launched Mushies from a different marketplace, but we still wanted to get integrated on Rand. And so we reached out to them and they're like, oh, aren't you associated with Beaver, who released Algoats? And we're like, yeah, he's one of our students. He's in seat with us every single day, Monday through Friday. Oh well, yeah. Well, he named his project. There was already a goats project on Algorand, and we're like, oh, okay. What does this have to do with our integration? And so they were really butthurt, and they were upset at us because he deployed this collection before he attended our certification course, right? This was deployed
Hmm.
before he ever stepped foot in our door. And so here he is, a new artist, and he deployed this collection. He says, you know what? I need to get better. And then he enrolls at ApeLabs. He goes through certification with us. We try to get our project integrated. They're like, oh, yeah, you're with him. No, we're not going to integrate you. And we're like, wow. Like,
That's weird.
yeah, well, this is
Yeah,
the
but that's the reality.
standard. Like, this is, you encounter this ridiculous stuff from entities in this space all the time.
Yeah,
And
it's totally normal.
and fortunately, Jim, right, our VP, like, he's so sweet and easy to work with. He eventually was able to arrange a setup where we were integrated, but they didn't list our collection on their site. And so, so people could buy and sell through their gallery. They just didn't want to acknowledge it was possible. But like, look, I mean, this is what the space is like. I mean, it is what it is. You got to be prepared for it.
Yeah, that's really odd.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's very interesting. But I just didn't expect that sort of thing at all. It's like people have like weird little personal bitchy vendettas. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man, all the
Yeah,
time.
They do.
Yeah.
Part of our curriculum and a big key point of our focus is to remove emotion from your decision making. And
Nice.
anytime you're talking about finances and money that you worked for and how you're going to place that and where you're going to put it, you have to take emotion out or you're just going to get wrecked. But unfortunately, the vast majority of the market, because it's so accessible and anybody with an internet connection can come in and access it, as a whole, kind of the hive mind of the crypto market, it's in a really poor spot in terms of approach in the way that they manage relationships and how they do it. Like, you see it all the time, people airing DMs. This was something else we saw in the early Algorand ecosystem. Like, we were looking at prospective partners and you go to their Twitter account, they're airing out DMs with other people in the industry. And it's like, well, what in the world? Yeah. Have you ever seen like has Coca-Cola ever aired out emails with a distributor to put them on blast? Like
That's odd.
these people, they act like petulant children because they run on emotion. And if they were trained and if they were professional, they wouldn't.
Yeah. Boy, that's very. I never knew that. So yeah, that is very interesting. So if there was like some, you know, a little checklist. I don't know how many, maybe 2, 5 things that people need to do as the very, very starting blocks of starting an NFT collection. What would you say those
Hmm.
things were?
Yeah, well, I'll give some, and that'll give Greg time to come up with a list of his own because he's been a part of 2 major deployments with Mushies and also Lab Rats. And so yeah, I would say first protocol level, you have to be good with it. You have to look beyond where the hype is right now, where the users are right now. It changes every month, it changes every quarter, it ebbs and flows. And you can't base a project that you plan to manage and host for 5 to 10 years off of what's trending in May of 2022.
Mm.
And so, first and foremost, you really have to check the box of the protocol and make sure that it's going to align with your concept, that there will be a market. 2, you really have to think out the concept. Um, anybody can give stuff away for free. And so, like, if the concept is, oh, it's going to be an NFT collection and it gets an airdrop token. Well, I hate to burst your bubble, but that's been tried like 500,000 times. It always
Yeah.
fails.
Okay.
So have some kind of awareness, some situational awareness, create a concept that you can support and sustain, and it doesn't require any sort of further financial commitment from the project to the holders, because it's generally just not sustainable. um, Third, have everything on chain.
Oh,
everything
okay.
everything you do has to be on chain. And so when you talk about like the minting contract, the listing contract, metadata, the way that the images are hosted, making sure that's on a decentralized protocol. Because look, we've seen it. So essentially, these tokens are minted and issued on chain, and they point to the file, right?
Yeah. I often am worried about this. Like half the NFTs, like if the sort of company that's launched these NFTs just decides to pack up shop, I'm just going to have a load of data,
Yeah,
and that's
well, and
it.
it's happened. We've
Yeah.
seen where NFTs have had their images hosted on centralized servers who
Mm.
don't appreciate all the traffic coming from these on-chain. You know what I mean? Because like when this
Mm.
is looking at the data and you go to the rare board and you look at the entire collection, it's hitting it, right?
Yeah.
And so like a centralized server company, they don't have the bandwidth available that like Ethereum or BNB chain does. And so, yeah, we've seen it. We've seen them remove images from NFT. And
Mm.
then when you go to the NFT, it says this image is no longer hosted on
Yeah.
tinyURL or whatever it was. And so the image hosting has to be on like an IPFS, an ICP product, where it's a distributed system of hosting data. Otherwise, you run into these issues. And so keeping decentralization, having the stuff on chain, having the images or whatever media it's pointing to, if it's a video or an MP3, having that hosted on a distributed network. These are very, very key critical points, because if you do get into a situation where you release and the image hosting platform you have is a centralized server, they remove your collection, it's over.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
over.
And can you ever, uh, you, well, find another place? I mean, say you've hosted it on a centralized server, you've learned your lesson. Can you then sort of somehow edit the NFTs to then point somewhere else
No,
for the image?
no, because
Okay.
once those minting contracts are on chain, that's
Mm.
it. This is
Mm.
the value proposition. It's gone. No one can change it. So you can you can do a second version,
Mm.
right? Which I mean is generally accepted in the space. People migrate and do new versions. I've got 2 non-fungible apes. And so it happens, and people can migrate to new contracts for a variety of reasons, right? Because there can be new token standards implemented, and it might be beneficial later on to do it. So yeah, there's a way to save it, but what you can't save is the reaction. What you
Yeah,
can't save are the holders who now all of a sudden lose all confidence in you.
definitely. Good.
Gre-
No,
Greg,
there's a very
what's your? Yeah, sorry, Tom. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, that those are three, very solid points. I'll put them as a little thing. Oh, hold on. Yeah, there we go. They're at the bottom of the screen. No, I was just going to say,
Perfect.
those three are,
That's awesome.
very solid. I mean, are there any more things to perhaps add to that, or are those like three? That's the Holy Trinity.
Well, I will add some personal experience. Um, First, or in the fourth place, I would say that don't try to beat the market. Don't try uh, to bring something totally new to people who aren't ready for that you're trying to propose. So if you had this great idea about this great NFT and you're thinking in an incredible functionality or utility for your NFT, and you haven't checked that market and you haven't see that how it's going to react that market for you, well, it's probably not the best idea. So as Chip said, you need to run an analysis over the market that you are trying to, or over the users you are trying to reach. If you are seeing that some type of collections are having excellent results, well, it's not them trying to follow the same road, because not always the market is ready for the new stuff. And if you're willing to take the chances of the risk of doing a new stuff, well, you will need patience and you will need to face the consequences probably of don't having that enough sailing of your that enough sales of your collection. So I would say that don't try to beat the market or to go around the market. You have to follow the rules that are going on in the chain that you selected. That's one thing that I will point, like, um, it's very important not to uh, go against what is going on in that chain.
Yeah,
And
like win in Rome, right?
Mm,
yeah, and I will also add that when you have your concept, you need to be loyal to it. You need to be 100% faithful for, or have faith in what you are doing, and go all the way with your concept. So you started and you deploy this NFT that has this determinate way of art and probably has some utility, and you need to be uh, faithful for it, and you need to be like 100% confident in the product you are offering to the market, because once you take the chance, when you deploy your smart contract, well, it's there, and you need to take the responsibility for it, and many times the key from success is just to owning your own project and being faithful for that, and being 100% confident in what you created. Because if
yeah,
you don't have faith in what you do, well, how do you expect the other people will take it or will buy it, you know
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No, but, well, yeah, solid tips. Yeah, thank you. I think, yeah, I've learned so much, and we've only talked half an hour. So yeah, thank you. And so, now we've sort of perhaps got these foundation aspects down. Can we start drawing the art? Is now the time?
Yeah, yeah, you get the concept down.
Mm,
Part of the conceptual phase is to sit down with the artist and to figure out how you can implement the vision, because the art can come through in so many ways. It could be video, it could be audio, it could be a static image, it could be, your standard setup with different attributes and layers, and you slap them all into a randomizer and let the algorithmic gods do their work, right? And so if you have this concept nailed down and you understand what the supply is going to be, and you understand what the different layers of attributes and rarity structures are going to be, yeah, then you're good to start pursuing the art.
mhm.
But you want to, like you want to have it all, you want to have it all laid out in advance, because once you go into the art creation process, this could be somewhat hard and stressful for artists. And especially if you're working in a collaborative environment. um, artists are talented, they're unique, they're typically eclectic and charismatic, and they have their own ideas and their own beliefs, and they draw lines in sand. And so this collaborative process of creating the layers and designing the art, it's somewhat delicate, but yeah, you can once you have everything in place, now you can start the work there. You definitely don't want to do the art first. And
Mm,
you could do like some conceptual designs, right? Like just some drafts of like, oh, hey, this is what it would look like or whatever. But um, you should have everything in place and know exactly what the schedule looks like, the release, and all of this stuff before you really start to undertake the art. Because you could get into a situation where you create the art and then 3 to 4 weeks later you hate it, or you want to add entirely different features, or you want them to face left instead of right. And so now all of the time from the collaborative team for like the concept, from the artist from creating it, it was all for nothing, right? I mean,
yeah.
you learn from it in that you wasted a ton of time, but you wasted a ton of time. So have everything teed up and then go into the art.
Nice. Yeah. And at what point should you start really actively trying to build a community?
Well, before, I mean, definitely before. I mean,
Mm,
our approach for Lab Rats was to really start to attract people to the community about 3 to 4 weeks before the mint went out. And then we made a really strong push like 2 weeks to 10 days beforehand. And so that approach tends to work. There are more than, a lot of it's going to depend on the ecosystem. I mean, there are some communities on other chains where they're pending mints for 3 to 6 months, and,
Yeah,
and they're just
yeah,
community growing. I don't know what they're talking about. I
yeah.
don't, I don't know what they're doing for that long of a time period, but they exist. And a lot of it will really depend on the ecosystem itself, because there's so many places to go and talk crypto, and there's so many Discord servers, there's so many Telegrams. Everybody's trying to make the best one. Everybody's trying to capture the most attention. And so you don't want to dedicate too much of your time and resources in advance of the mint to trying to attract and retain those eyes. Because if it's 5 to 6 weeks before mint and you're recruiting community members, well, what happens if they come in 6 weeks before mint and then they're like, oh, they drop it down their server list, they throw it to the bottom, and then it gets forgotten. So yeah, you have the number, but you don't actually have the user.
mm. That's interesting, but because I thought it might be better just to, the longer the better. But I never thought about the hundreds of Discord servers that I'm on that I just put in a folder and have not looked at in ages.
Yeah, everybody's like that. Everyone's like that, Tom. I've
Yeah.
got I've got I've got the shitty Discord folder. I know what
Oh,
you're
good.
talking about.
Nice. That's yeah. And have you got any tips then for building a community? Obviously, don't do it for 6 months before the mint.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what tips what would you say are important to bear in mind?
Yeah. I mean, you can approach this so many ways. In there's a really strong desire to have numbers, right? And so like the gleams and the giveaways, this is a great way to attract people in and to get people kind of into your community channels, servers, et cetera, et cetera. But they generally, like the gleam professionals, they come in, they say, hey, great project, love it, and then they never say another word.
Oh, honest, the amount of Gleam professionals that we've had for BSC News, we've stopped pretty much doing Gleams
Yeah.
because there'd be a handful of 5 people. I don't
Hey,
know if
Greg,
you
we can hear little Greg back there.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry for that.
Okay.
No, it's lovely. Honestly, don't be sorry for that sort of thing.
You're
So-
very nice, man. You're very nice.
Oh,
Yeah,
My
sorry,
little tongue
Tom.
with wife.
Your gleam recruits.
yeah, it turns out there may be 5 different people. They all have girls' names, quite attractive girl pictures.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, Gleam competitions. I'm not sure how good they are.
Well,
Yeah.
marketers love them, right?
Okay.
Marketers love them because they get the numbers. And so, and essentially the problem is that the marketers don't really have to deal with managing the spam and the scam and the DMs that come after the recruitment of these types. And so you really have to take a philosophical approach. Are you okay to take a bunch of daggers and people like saying the community sucks because you only have 70 people? Well, if you have 70 people and 30 of them are talking every day, that's a hell of a lot better than 25,000 people in crickets.
Yeah.
But again, right, the market is its own enigma. It's its own worst enemy, and so it's really a philosophical choice, because look, you can growth hack it. You can so easily buy up a bunch of community members. I mean, we've on different Gleam campaigns that we've done, in terms of like actual tangible retention of, okay, we attract 100 people through this Gleam campaign. What number actually stays and hangs around and talks and farms and does these things? It's less than one. So,
Yeah.
Wow.
so
Terrible.
I
Yeah.
mean, it,
Hmm.
maybe they end up staying in farming and they just don't ever talk again. But I mean, we've had campaigns through ApeSwap that have attracted thousands of users, and after this influx of thousands of users, all you really have left are the same people that were talking beforehand.
Yeah.
Like, no one comes into the fold by default. Most people just lurk. um
Yeah.
yeah,
No, that is
so
interesting. But I mean, going onto a Discord server and seeing a lot of people there, maybe, I don't know, 20, 30,000 plus, it's quite a good sign. So, but then if I was to go on a Discord server that had 100 people, but there was maybe 30, 50 people really, really active there,
yeah,
I wouldn't feel as comfortable in that server,
right.
just because they didn't have
Yeah.
that blob of loads of people. Um,
Right.
no, that's very interesting.
Well, and
Okay.
this is how the market creates its own problems,
Mm,
right? They value the bells and whistles. They value the hype. They value promises, right? And the tangibility. That's a whole different story, because if you look at Cardano, I mean, for 5 years, Cardano promised an amazing DeFi protocol. Smart contracts come out and boom, DEX orders are at 100% slippage and in queue for 15 to 20 hours. This is reckless. Like, if there were actual capable adversaries over there, all those people would get destroyed. And
yeah.
so, but look, Cardano's huge, integrated everywhere, right? Blue chip crypto coin, right? It took in like $5 billion worth of Bitcoin 5 years ago to deliver a DeFi protocol, and it sucks. Everybody
Yeah.
knew it was going to be bad because of the structure, and everybody told them, if you follow this UTXO model, it'll never work. But they produced hundreds of white papers trying to validate it. But then once it actually gets deployed, well, guess what? It doesn't work. And
Exactly.
so, everybody likes the allure. Everybody wants to feel, right? Like, oh, it's coming, right? Here it is. Here's my 10,000x. Here's my retirement, and I'm gonna get it through this community that has 30,000 people, but no one's posted in 3 days, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. No,
And so,
well, this is what we try to do, though, Tom. Like, this is what we try to educate. And our curriculum is very intensive. It really, really challenges our students. Greg can attest to this. Um,
Yeah. Of course.
it puts people out of their comfort zone, and it really challenges kind of their preconceived notions.
yeah, good. I think, yeah, we did talk about putting people out of their comfort zones in the podcast, which was very interesting. And again, people listening to this, I will link the podcast below. So once you've got a good community, and it's coming towards the time to mint, or for people to get their NFTs. Well, how do you actually make it so people can mint an NFT? I assume you don't just leave it
Mm.
till the day and then just go and hope everything
Yeah,
works. Yeah, how does
yeah.
that work? How can you like contacting launch pads or
Mhm.
marketplaces, or do you do it on your own website? Yeah,
Yeah.
how do you actually
Well,
send
hopefully,
people?
as a part of the concept phase in reviewing the protocol and how you can do this, like, this is kind of uncovered in that initial process. When we created Lab Rats, we knew that we weren't going to do a mint on our site. We just wanted to get all of them out there, because these are essentially tuition bonds for our institution. And so anybody who wants to buy a rat, they can buy it, hold it, and then come in whenever. And so we just wanted to get them all out there. So when we modeled it to the NFT key release, and so they follow the OpenSea standard. And so then that was the structure we used. That was our approach in terms of creating the contract, issuing, and minting. if you were to do a mint on your own website, or you were to do it on like a minting hosting site where people go on and pay for it, there's a lot that goes into that on the back end. It generally requires some adequate developers, because anytime you have these Web3 integrations and smart contracts, there's always opportunities for exploits. I would generally recommend people to use like a hosted service for these things, to leave it to professionals who kind of know what they're doing and can provide a safe environment for both the issuer and the people coming in to buy or mint. But the methodology, entirely dependent upon the protocol, entirely dependent upon the launch pad you're going with. And they could use anything from the OpenSea standard to, you just upload the image, they put it on IPFS, and then dole out a contract for you. Our minting methodology on Algorand was so dramatically different than what we did on BSC. And that if we were to look at future chains, right? If we were to look at doing something on like Near that didn't have an EVM implementation, we would really have to go in and dive into what their processes are, figure out our launchpad or our release place, and model it according to that.
Okay, and the minting contract as well. How would you suggest that that's done? Because I think a lot of people that are starting an NFT project, if I was starting it, I can, on BSC scan, I know parts of what to look for in a contract and things, but I could in no way near write one at all.
Right.
What do you suggest for that? Obviously, get another
Yeah.
person to do it, but
Yeah.
who can we
Well,
really trust?
yeah, I mean, now this is a huge problem.
Mm.
And this is where, some like OpenSea, where you can go and just mint the collection directly through OpenSea. Like, this
Mm.
is why these types of services are so valuable, because it requires some coding knowledge. It requires some experience with smart contracts. And for us, fortunately, our VP Jim, he's an electrical engineer by trade. He writes code for his regular 9 to 5. Klaus from BlockMine is one of our oldest friends through the ApeSwap community. And so when we deployed the LabRack contract, we actually did it with Klaus's advisory. And so even for us, right, we're still going out and seeking outside help to make sure we're not screwing anything up. If you want to do it yourself, you better start getting on GitHub. You better start forking some repos. You better start playing with code. You better start deploying these contracts on the testnet. And if you don't want to go to a hosted provider where the launchpad, manages the contract and these types of things, then you better be prepared to pay a pretty penny for someone to come in and write this for you. Because when you start to look for someone to come in and write this contract for you, there are high levels of trust involved. And
Definitely.
it's a trustless space by default. This is why the space is great, because we don't need to invoke trust. And so anytime you start to invoke trust into our space, it becomes really, really hard. And I don't have a solution for that.
Yeah, I mean, if I was to ask someone to write a contract for me, I would 110%, get someone that I knew, that I already had, a friendly, good, actual relationship with, because I'd have no way of knowing that, they might put in a function there that can just switch some
Right.
royalties sent to them, or rug switch or something like that. I would
Yeah.
have no way at all of knowing.
Well, and
Um,
these are details that go into the contract, and it is very easy for you to potentially get rugged by a third party writing a contract for you. It's not anything we would ever really advise. Like,
mm,
you really need to know this entity. As far as I know, there aren't any really kind of trusted providers in the space for this, because, well, for the vast majority of crypto, knowledge is a competitive advantage.
yeah,
If I'm a team and I know something you don't, why on earth would I want to seed this outward? Well, this is what we try to do with ApeLabs. We try to break down that barrier. I would say, though, if you're going to a protocol, and let's say it's not Ethereum, it's not BNB chain, go to the protocol level Discord, look at the developer conversations, Start to monitor people who are talking about NFTs. See if they have any sort of special designation. Maybe they're a certified developer or they're a developer advocate, and try to establish a relationship. And that might be your single best way to approach it. Because if you go right into the heart of these protocol social channels and you go right into the heart of developer communications, if you can manage to monitor that and understand some of the people that are dialoguing and see their technical veracity on display, because if they do something really cool as a developer, other developers are going to notice it and say it.
Yeah.
You just have to be there to witness it, and that might be a creative approach. That would probably be what I would do personally.
Clever. Good tip again. Thank you.
You're
Yeah, I
very
hope you're
welcome.
not giving
Yeah.
away too much.
No, dude, we love we love to spread knowledge and make the space better, man.
Good.
Like, that's all we
Yeah,
do.
this is what
Yeah,
you get when you go to ApeLabs. You get
exactly.
this every
Yeah.
day, all the
I
time, man.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worthwhile. And yeah, from the podcast we did as well. Again, people listening, I'm going to link it below. It's if you're thinking about starting an NFT collection, it's the best investment that you could make, hands down.
Yeah, get some
I mean,
formal training. I mean,
yeah,
like, do you want people designing your airplanes to learn from YouTube?
yeah,
You know what I mean?
Good
Like,
point.
no,
Mhm.
you don't, right?
No,
And so, do you want people designing your financial systems learning from YouTube? No, you don't.
exactly. Yeah, that's a very good way to put it. And then once the NFTs hopefully have been bought by people, and that's the point that you need to start basically delivering on your roadmap or your promises. Is that correct? You just need to actually
Oh
do it.
yeah. Well, I mean, man, once the contract's out and on chain and people start minting, you can take a breath, you give yourself a round of applause, and then you can get ready for a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
A lot of hard work, because if you're legitimate and you want to build this project and you want to build an ecosystem and you want to build a community right now, you're going to encounter FUD. You're going to encounter drops in floor prices. You're going to encounter whales checking out. You're going to encounter former partners piling crap on top of it. You're going to encounter all of the worst stuff possible, and no one's immune. I've been a part formally of 2 different crypto projects, and I've been, informally a part of many different communities. There isn't a single project that doesn't get fudded, crapped on, blamed, unnecessarily chastised, et cetera, et cetera. It's part of the space. And so being prepared to manage it, being prepared to steward your community, to lead them through it, to manage integrations, to further develop the project, to roll out, hit your roadmap benchmarks, it takes a lot, because it's a 24/7 global market. It doesn't stop ever. So
Yeah. That 24/7 thing. I haven't had a day off in I don't know when ever.
yeah, you got to tell yourself to pull away, right?
Yeah, it's and now but before I got into crypto, I thought, well, why is the stock market open from like 9 to 5 or whatever the hours are? Like, that's ridiculous. What happens if I want to go home and do some playing? But now I know. I fully
Yeah.
understand.
They were
Yeah,
wise. They
right.
were wise. Yeah.
Yeah, the bank holidays, right? That's this whole thing, so they can just not have to deal with it for a day.
Yeah, I know. I could. Yeah, if it was the weekend in crypto, I'd love to be able to relax. But no, it's the weekend,
No.
and you have to be extra on your toes.
Yeah. Oh man,
well.
I was it was it was a Sunday evening, and my youngest son is 6 and he's in first grade, and we were down the street at a neighbor's house celebrating his friend's birthday party. I get a message from someone very upset, wanting immediate resolution, or at least some sort of sign of an immediate resolution for an issue they have. And it's like Sunday at like 4 o'clock, and it's like, what are you supposed to do? Because if he wants an immediate resolution and I don't respond, right, he's gonna feel disenfranchised. He's gonna feel like I screwed him over. But it's not my intent. Like, I bust my ass Monday through Saturday, and like literally this is my day to just kind of hang out with my kids and go to the birthday party, talk to the neighbors. But now, here I am, right? We're gonna have to get drawn into this. because I care.
Yeah.
If I didn't
Exactly.
care, I could ignore it, but like I care. So I have to attend to it. And if you legitimately do care about your community, your projects, these are sacrifices you have to make if you want to be if you want to have staying power in the space.
Yeah, definitely. And I think people, yeah, until you're involved in a project, you don't realize sort of that it is actually 24/7.
Mhm.
Oh man, yeah, I remember the good old days of normal life.
Yeah, that's long
Yeah,
gone.
yeah, no, that's yeah, no, but I think we are coming towards sort of the hour, but
Yeah, we got to go teach.
well, no, great, and that's amazing that you do need to, and I think what you're doing with the whole ApeLabs teaching thing is fantastic.
Thank
But
you, Bab.
you've given some seriously good advice this evening, and to
Thank you.
people listening. As I said earlier, some of the best money that you can invest if you're in any way involved at all, really, in the NFT scene is this ApeLabs course. It's seriously good, and there's not really anything like it around. Obviously, Chip said, there's YouTube, but would you really want to invest in? Yeah, you heard what he said basically. You need professional training. But it was very good to have professional training. So before we sort of begin to wrap things up, is there anything any last points, any sort of take home things that you want to mention at all?
Yeah, I mean, we've got really great summer schedule coming up. And so we have a dual focus of industry and market participants. And so if you're working in the industry, we're doing things like community management, work-life balancing. Tom, I feel like I just need to get you in there by default,
Yeah,
man.
I might join that one.
Yeah, Tom.
That sounds
It's
good.
it's so we have a nice
I've been
lineup
seeing
of
you.
industry focus, and then we also have a nice lineup for people who want their quick turnaround, their profit, right? And so we even have like a Degen Seifu lab coming up this summer, where we're going to show you how to allocate a small portion of your portfolio to high risk plays and how to properly approach like super degenerate activity, because it's fun, right? Everybody likes it.
Properly approach super degenerate activity.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That is
Uh,
cool.
We need that. Yeah,
yeah,
we need
yeah.
that a little
Because you
bit.
can do it. You can do
Mm,
it, right? Like if you have a
mm.
good grasp on where you are and you want to say, okay, I'm throwing 2 or 3% of my portfolio into some really high risk.
Yeah,
Okay, right? If you're in a position to make that assessment and you can make that allocation and it isn't going to hurt you, you're within your right, because you could hit it big, right? You really could hit big on it. So let's do it. Let's try it.
nice, good. But yeah, thank you so much for your time again. It's been epic, and
Thank
yeah,
you.
I hope we'll talk later down the line again, because this is the second time I've talked to you, which is I enjoy it so much because I learn loads every time. And I'm sure our listeners, viewers, uh, livers, they do too. But yeah, I know that you do basically need to teach in 1 minute. But
Yeah, I
honestly,
see they're in the classroom now. They're probably like, well, when are Greg and
yeah,
Chip coming over?
yeah.
So,
But
but no,
honestly,
So
Tom,
cheap.
thank you so much for those kind words. Thank you for the invite. And we will absolutely be back. And we love having these combos with you.
amazing, good.
Yeah,
We'll
man.
speak soon, and but thank you so much again, because it's epic. Honestly, I'll talk to you in the Telegram. Have a great class now, because sorry I've made you late for it.
Well,
Yeah,
teacher can be late. So
okay, good.
we'll see you, Tom.
See you soon. Thank you very, very much. Bye bye. Good night.